in all these ruckus, several entities. So His Excellency has listened to the cries. Now we are yet to see when this is going to happen. Well, Felix, good morning. Happy Throwback Thursday. I have now carried it from Happy Tuesday to Happy Thursday.
Good morning. How are you, Philomena?
Lovely. I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Is it a good day? You wake up to some sort of new vibe and this whole thing. A couple of things that quite cast a bit of fairness for Ugandans and yet for us to pick from. One of them being what His Excellency did direct. Today morning I was listening to his statement and he was quite clear about what he said. Yesterday in Parliament, same discussion did take toll.
Yes.
And we saw the Deputy Speaker of Parliament, that is Thomas Tayewa, having had a suggestion from the Member of Parliament, is it Nakawa West, Balimwezo, who came out also to say that KCC should be given an increase in its budget to about 500 billion, not the 100 billion. So the discussion is gaining some momentum, it's making some sense, and that's why I pity. And yesterday I told you, now you pity a member of a minister who had come out to say people should not post these things, they will be arrested. Now you think, you see, leadership is not about, in Uganda I say go. Some of these people in leadership positions have just pressed themselves in this because they fail to understand people's problems. This that is helping actually KCCA carry its burden, because now they are going to get some money and probably also will have a budgetary increase because of the efforts of the people. So I think also to them there's a lesson to pick, that people are not against them, but probably for them. That is one of the things. But also the arraignment of Nandutu Honorable Nandutu in court. Surprisingly, she was crying foul play because she was committed immediately at first instance. She said what she's burning with the fire, about the fire of the what. She was trying to be a little bit English and all that. But that did save her in any case. We are waiting to see who's next to the queue. You know, I think it reminds me of that old-time school. Like you tell your friends, very enough to go.
It's now our turn, so we're waiting to see whose turn is next.
Well, this person who's always in the front who never wanted to leave.
And these are some of the people we have in our societies and community.
We are waiting to see who the DPP will sanction next, who the police is having next. I also understand the Honorable Gorob is coming to court, back to court today. Don't know whether or not he'll get bailed. He may end up having Eid in Luzira or wherever he is.
Well, if one had Easter in, to be fair enough that another has Eid in.
I don't know how fair that would be. I have told you.
For as long as they're guilty. If they are not, good for them.
I have a soft spot for Honorable Gorob. I don't know why.
We shall get back to that soft spot, Felix. But good morning.
Good morning to you. How have you been, and our viewers? I spent the entire night trying to read the Bible and find the various forms of baptism, because yesterday I learned that the Honorable Minister, State for Karamoja, had been baptized with fire, but she remained firm. And I'm trying to understand. I last heard of the disciples were on the day of the Pentecost, when the Holy Spirit came upon them and on top of their heads there were flames of fire. So I was trying to imagine, is that the kind of baptism? But since I've failed, well, I'll look for that Bishop to give me more information.
A clear explanation.
Various forms of baptism. Throwback Thursday, this just reminds me when we were in class, when the teacher was caning, and you says, well, you're in the queue. This one gets, the other gets, and you're waiting. You're the one to be caned next. Now, we wait to see who is receiving the canes next, but I find it very disturbing when someone got 2,000 iron sheets that were meant for the launch in Karamoja, and they were discovered at her farm in Mokono, Honorable Nandutu. 2,000, then if you're to build a house of 2,000 iron sheets, well, that must be really huge.
They were on a farm?
Yeah, they were discovered when the search was conducted. These 2,000 were part of the lot that was meant for the official launch in Karamoja. Now she finds it more important to take them at the farm. But well, they are dancing according to the music they played for themselves. But all is not well and not yet to be well, as we see the rapid support forces in Sudan and the government forces, where the government forces are saying, we are not going in for a ceasefire, actually, because we want to deal with these rebels for once and for all. Now, the 19 Ugandans were transferred to another destination, to another place away from where they were previously, but all is still not safe and none have been evacuated. We continue to pray for our brothers and sisters in Sudan so that peace will be restored.
Well, quite interesting, but also I know that members of parliament have summoned the Ministry of Finance Permanent Secretary for actually the education cuts. They do believe that this needs quite a clear explanation. So we don't know what he has to say about these cuts, because if we are talking about budgetary cuts, because this is what we have seen in the next financial year, we are looking at several cuts from several budgets in different ministries, departments and agencies. So he's been summoned by the MPs to give a clear explanation, to pick his thought process when he was talking about this. But you know, if we're going to talk about cuts in the education ministry, I mean, there's several other ministries where clearly we also need cuts. The other time we saw the Ministry of Tourism, when they had their budget cut close to 70%, and then there was a lot of noise and chaos made, but the minister came out to say, no, that could have been a blunder, but we'll look into it. And I'm thinking now, what do they best want to recognize or to consider priority ministries or not?
Well, I think basically it's in appreciation of what government is planning to do, probably under their manifesto, or even considering the national objectives and how close whatever ministry can bring them to executing the same. I'm thinking about that in that direction. But Throwback Thursday.
Throwback Thursday.
There's something interesting. Like today, I've been trying to read something about child development, and one of the experts, pediatrician, did write, and they said that if you want your child to grow mentally and appreciate issues, you notice that you may have to find ways of reducing how you assist them. You must find ways of reducing the assistance you give to the kids. Now, they must be exposed to solving their own problems. You understand? So, and it sort of like took me back. How many times were you like helped with, for example, when did you start washing your clothes, Philomena?
I think when I was around primary 4 or primary 5.
That's about 9, 10?
Yeah, close
11.
to that. And that was after I joined boarding school. Yes. Then when I go back home, they felt that I had the capacity to do that. But I was doing a few chores here and there.
And Robert? Did you ever even wash your clothes, Robert?
Oh, definitely.
At what point was that?
P1.
Roberts.
Yes.
P1.
Yes.
Are you serious?
Some of us, the war took us to boarding schools very early. Yes, there was the matron who was supposed to do it, but you know,
if you put it that way, I totally understand that.
Do it. Should funds, but you had to do it. And
I think it's something
so
today's kids must, and parents, by the way, they must find a way of sort of like giving room for the kids to try and do some work. You know, you find a kid in about P7 and they can hardly do any work at home. They can't even cook tea. They can't they are totally like handicapped. And how are they going to confront the world? You know, honestly and truly, you find a child, even you go to secondary schools and a girl can hardly wash her knicker. You've seen house helps who wash, you find these adults, not even no longer, because when someone is in S5 or S6, they're adults, and they still wash for them their underwears and their bras and all these things. And majorly this is a problem, even guys, even boys, most recent. So how is this child going to confront the world challenges when they're out there? The kid, after eating food, they just throw the plate maybe where they ate from. Like those are
there is somebody
basics.
to pick after them every now and then.
That's the thing. They need to be like, they are assisted in every aspect of their life, which is wrong. You need to help kids and let them solve some of their problems. Like someone must have a life order. Like how we used to be, like you wake up in the morning, you have to, what's the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning? Run, brush your teeth, wash your face. That was a basic note. But now you meet a child at midday, they haven't even brushed, but they're on TV and phone. You get the point.
There are very many things that have come into play, Felix.
Manyas, Mani, what, Peppa Pig, what. And it's 1 p.m. The kid all has what, I don't know what Ngedegeze is in English, but they all have saliva, it's called what, leftover saliva, because that's kind of thing. But it's 1 a.m. and the parents are also in the house. Now, what kind of child is that going to be, honestly? Now, after, and at that point, after playing games, they're asking for the food. When they eat, they go back to the kid will not shower in 3 days. I mean, you think you love your child? Trust me, you're losing your child. It's as simple as that.
I mean, there are different ways of how you as a parent, you can express your love. But I mean, when you talk about all these chores, I remember what my parents used to do. Every long-term holiday, they would actually take us to the village, to my grandma's, and then you'd actually go hardcore, go to the garden, harvest millet. It was really hardcore, but at the end of the day, you had to learn some of these things. And they kept telling you
there's something that usually disturbs my mind when I look at some of the parents. Why do you think that things that made you are going to break your children? Because there's some of the things that made us, but today you find a parent who will tell you, I suffered, that my children do not suffer. But there are things that made you, you had to do chores at home.
But some of these parents are not okay. Let me tell you, Robert.
Okay, in which sense, Philomena?
Some of these parents are actually traumatized by the experiences they had back in the day.
Yes.
Yeah, and they will tell you that, I do understand when some of them say, I don't want my children to go through exactly what I went through. I could slightly make it a bit softer, but not saying that they shouldn't do what and what. But some of these parents are really traumatized. It's just that some of them are really exaggerated and spoiled the children, but the trauma lives amongst old people, our parents, and it's very evident. You can see it.
There was a lot of child violence.
Yeah, there was too much. So, and
Philomena, I'm just standing here thinking to myself, what's traumatizing about, like,
Felix, I am pretty sure you wouldn't want some of the experiences you went through when you were a child, for your child to go through now.
There are things I wouldn't want them to go through.
Yes.
Those things I had no control over. Okay? I don't know if you get, like, there are things, like, for example, poverty. There had times, because I had no control over them as a child. But there are things that I was a victim because I was part of, I don't know if you, let me just tell you one thing lastly. You know that where I grew up were about 20, family of over 20 people.
Yes.
My granny. Now we had days of cooking.
You'd cook in tons.
In tons. The week. They give you a week, like Felix, in a week you go out from. Now, do you know the kind of food you used to cook? You used to have potato, matoke, cassava, and posho. Basically, among those. And sauce would be groundnuts, once in a while maybe meat and what, but basically I used to have a lot of groundnuts. Now you had, because of the scarcity of resources, you had to make sure you cook those things in one meal to find a way to utilize the little to make sure people have. Now it meant that you had to put the groundnuts on top of what? Now that means that for you to have that done, you had to put this food in biai.
The banana leaves.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, all those things, they may not do exactly the same, but you know what it means to cook food for 20 people? And then you had to press it out, guys, and then they had to question if they find a mole in
and again, it's very, now out of that, I could say right now, the best thing to do is to teach a child how to maybe make a meal like that. They don't necessarily have to go under those conditions or you be harsh to them. So you have to be very selective about some of the practices you want your children to you know, to carry on from what you did. I don't really subscribe to the whole idea of
they didn't necessarily to do what
children have to go through what I went
Yeah,
through.
but
Yes,
like
but they
Felix
must out
rightly-
a few things here and
Felix
there.
rightly mentioned it. It's all about having that these children are raised as responsible.
Yes.
people.
let them be
For
able to
example,
solve their
One
own
of the most
problems.
important things in life is order. Felix talked about when you wake up. What do you do? You know?
Exactly.
Order, time management, neatness.
Very key.
I mean, you
Because
can
that's
wake
why
up,
today
make
you find
breakfast, and
people
you
are
know,
going through school. They come from university, but they're because they lack order in their life and
wait,
values.
yeah.
They're not employable.
They are mediocre.
They're not employable. Someone who they don't know basic skills of life, effective communication. You know, these are things we're saying. Parents, you must be being hardworking. Simple values. They may not necessarily be you cook like Felix said, but how do you dare tell me that a child can wake up by one you've not brushed, you've not
you're watching TV.
You're watching
Haven't you seen
Anyways,
this?
it's I mean, we
No,
could
so-
go on and on and on and on, but it's true. At the end of the day, discipline is key. Some of these skills you actually have to employ them in your other life aside from childhood. Well, right now we'll look at some of our local stories and international stories. Robert, what's happening?
It's all about His Excellency, the joy he brought to Ugandans when he said they should have 6 billion to KCCA to work on the state of roads. President Museveni directed the Ministry of Finance to urgently release 6 billion as quarterly contribution to Kampala Capital City Authority. The funds will be used for pothole filling, repairs, and maintenance of roads in the city. This announcement was made during the first quarter broadcast on trade and investment, an initiative by President Museveni Advisory Committee on Export, Industry and Development. President Museveni also directed the Civil Aviation Authority to upgrade road infrastructure for the 4 roads in Uganda. The move is aimed at strengthening Uganda's tourism potential, with tourist movement earmarked for improvement. The President, together with Mr. Rabogo and other dignitaries, emphasized the importance of tourism sector in Uganda's economic development.
Now, the Anti-Corruption Court in Kororo did charge and commit the State Minister for Paramoja Affairs, Agnes Nandutu, to High Court trial for trial on 1 count of dealing with suspected property, and this followed the prosecution that did inform court that the inquiries and investigations in the matter had been complete. Now, Nandutu, however, pleaded not guilty to the alleged offences and was remanded to Ruzida until the 3rd day of May.
And some good news coming in here. Parliament is to consider a decision by President Yoweri Museveni to avail more funds to Uganda Broadcasting Corporation to enhance its operations as the national broadcaster. As the budgeting process advances, Parliament seeks to create an independent vote code in the budget for financial year 2023-2024 to expedite financial support to the national broadcaster. In the report of the ministerial policy statement presented by Hasim Moses Magogo, the Vice Chairperson of the Parliamentary Committee on ICT and National Guidance, UBC will be facilitated with 30 billion each year to boost its mandate.
Now, the Buganda Road Magistrate Court in Kampala has charged and remanded Hamza Faruku, a street beggar, with offences of unlawful possession of a firearm and military uniform. Now, Hamza Farouk, who was on the street begging, was recently arrested for allegedly being found in possession of these items allegedly, but denied the charges. Now, meanwhile, the General Court Martial in Machinde has also finally charged another offence of treachery to 32 NUP supporters.
Well, looking at the international stories, at least 78 people have been killed in a crash at a school in the Yemeni capital, Sana'a, during a distribution of charity for Ramadan, according to officials. Video footage on social media shows chaotic scenes after the incident in the Ba al-Yemen area of the city. Several news reports show hundreds of people crowded into the school to receive donations, which amounted to about $9 per person. Houthi rebels have run the city since they drove out the government back in 2015. Those responsible for the distribution have been detained and an investigation is underway, according to the Interior Ministry. Many people were also injured, with 13 in a critical situation, according to health officials in Sana. Now, an 84-year-old white man accused of shooting and wounding a black teenager who mistakenly walked up to his house has pleaded not guilty to felony charges during his first court appearance in the United States case. Kansas City resident Andrew Lester appeared during a brief arraignment in a Clay County courtroom in Missouri, according to online court records. He faces one charge at first-degree assault, which carries a maximum sentence of life, and one count of armed criminal action, punishable by up to 15 years in prison. The case garnered national attention after Lester shot 16-year-old Ralph Yall on the doorstep of his suburban home last Thursday night. Yall's family has maintained that the high school junior had simply arrived at the wrong house while looking to pick up his two younger siblings. A new ceasefire attempt between Sudanese troops and paramilitary forces in Khartoum has so far been unsuccessful, heightening concerns over diminishing food provisions and a breakdown of essential medical services. The 24-hour ceasefire lobbied for by countries trying to evacuate their citizens after days of conflict was supposed to come into effect at 6 p.m. local time. However, eyewitnesses in Khartoum said fighting has continued on Wednesday. Now, in climate and weather, a survey shows anxiety about the environment is prominent among teenagers, including Ruby Brown, who feels helpless about the future. Ruby Brown feels helpless and anxiety-ridden when she thinks about the future and the irreversible damage occurring because of the climate emergency. The climate crisis is such a big issue and causing so much harm that sometimes people feel as though it is impossible to fight it. Well, away from that, looking to our daily health dossier this morning, Robert, what do you have?
Well, so much is happening regarding climate change, and one of the things we must understand is some of the diseases that we never had are now very common.
True.
For example, colds were not that very common, but because of change of climate here and there. So what you have to do is to boost your immune system. Hallelujah tamarind drink, hallelujah gingati drink, just 1,500, any of the flavors, and I guarantee you these will boost your body. An unhealthy body, well, is what is productive. Your body is able to make you good money, and at the same time you make a number of savings. So why not try any supermarket, any retail shop, and get yourself any of the 3 flavors.
Well, in the press review this morning, we do have a number of other stories coming in from the Daily Monitor. Felix, what's going on?
Well, of course, looking at the Daily Monitor, quite interesting stories here, but our major focus is on the evidence against Nandutu. Now, heavy fighting in Sudan blocks Ugandan rescues, and Uganda scientists develop cancer detection machine. Well, we hope this actually comes to life. Now, government also suspends teacher transfer for payroll audit, and the Attorney General advises Museveni on anti-gay bill. Now, doctors reveal how Mwakanizi battled cancer of the bone.
Good morning, Uganda. We still have a lot to share with you as we go on, but right now we'll go for a break, and of course we'll be throwing it back because it is a Thursday, so why not? And when we return, the newsreel will be up for discussion between us and you, so be part of it. Good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in
Well, quite a very cold Thursday morning, but we are alive and we are surviving. I guess this is one more big reason to say thanks to the Lord. Well, good morning, Uganda. Thursday is here, throwing it back. 20th of April 2023. My name is Philomena, Mastiko, of course, with the entire Good Morning Uganda crew. We are coming closer to the Eid Day, one of those days where we have our Muslims and brothers and sisters really looking forward to, but also to end their holy month of Ramadan. Now, we don't know when exactly that will be, but at least we know that we are just a few days away or even a few hours away from that. But of course, we'll be getting official communication to look into that. But also right now, after several complaints and what you could actually term as the Ugandan protest, I love the fact that His Excellency listened to his Bazukulu and directed the Ministry of Finance to release an emergency amount of about 6 billion Uganda shillings to be able to work on some of these roads. Now, this whole week, we have been all about the road situation here in Uganda. We have seen several people being mentioned in all these ruckus, several entities. So His Excellency has listened to the cries. Now we are yet to see when this is going to happen. Well, Felix, good morning. Happy Throwback Thursday. I have now carried it from Happy Tuesday to Happy Thursday.
Good morning. How are you, Philomena?
Lovely. I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Is it a good day? You wake up to some sort of new vibe and this whole thing. A couple of things that quite cast a bit of fairness for Ugandans and yet for us to pick from. One of them being what His Excellency did direct. Today morning I was listening to his statement and he was quite clear about what he said. Yesterday in Parliament, same discussion did take toll.
Yes.
And we saw the Deputy Speaker of Parliament, that is Thomas Tayewa,
It's the encounters with our majestic gorillas. The thrill of taking on the falls of the Nile River. The joy of discovering new traditions and a lot more. Join us at the 2023 Pearl of Africa Tourism Expo from the 26th to the 29th of April at the Commonwealth Resort, Munyonyo. Rediscover our country's uniqueness and see what the tourism sector has in store for you. Visit www.poate.co.ug to secure your spot and get set to learn, network and explore. The Pearl of Africa Tourism Expo is brought to you by the Uganda Tourism Board in partnership with Competitiveness and Enterprise Development Projects. Explore Uganda, the Pearl of Africa.
Glow as you are with the new Spark 10 series smartphone from Airtel in partnership with Tecno. Own the timelines with picture-perfect selfies using the 32-megapixel selfie camera, 256 GB storage, G88 gaming processor, and a strong battery to last the whole day. Haha! Towakana.
The Spark 10 smartphone comes with free 3 GB from Airtel and 100% bonus on weekly and monthly bundles every month for 3 months. So you can stay connected to a world of possibilities. Dial *100*5# to enjoy free data. The new Spark 10 is available in all selected Tecno shops countrywide. Airtel, the smartphone network in partnership with Tecno. Stop at nothing.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning, Uganda. 7 minutes past 7 a.m. is the 20th of April 2023. My name is Philomena, and as always, with the good sir and counsel Felix Nkunda. Why, you don't believe it?
Oh no, I'm taking it in. I'm taking it in.
Well, we are here for the newsreel and of course having discussions that matter in the wee hours of the day. Well, very, very interesting things that did happen in Parliament yesterday. Of course, you know, during their sessions, it's always interesting to see what several MPs have to say about what is happening. And there is one specific one that really, really excited me about what they had to present on the floor to the Speaker yesterday, and that is Abed Wanika. Now, this gentleman here had a very, very interesting take on the conversations of salary discrepancies for both scientists and artists, especially when it comes to public service. Now, in the last couple of months or years or so, we have been advocating so much for the scientists, because we do believe that they have quite an upper hand when it comes to development of a country. And we are now looking at the shifts and transitionings of most economies becoming science-based, or, you know, science-grounded or science-related. And of course, as a country and as an economy, this is something that we'd also love to jump on too. But his reasoning was, in as much as we want to focus on that, it's very important to have an equitable salary scale or salary attention to both artists and scientists, because they both bring something to the table. And I mean, this got me thinking, can scientists survive without artists? Can artists survive without scientists? Or can we actually coexist in an entire environment, in an economy? And what are some of the challenges that we are looking at if we focus on one side of the coin? And is it necessary for us to focus on both sides? Why? How? Well, this is going to be guiding our discussion this morning. How do we get to have equitable salary conversations, especially amongst public servants? Well, be part of it. Get into our social media, Twitter, #UBCGMU, and of course, you can use our WhatsApp platform. The number is 0709 602 592. Well, working on equitable salaries in public service. Do you subscribe to what actually Abed was talking about, Felix?
The Honorable Abed Bwanika was quite spot on, and however not even surprising. He's quite a unique, he's made from a unique fabric of legislators, which kind clearly is not a normal one for many of them.
Somebody said if we had like 10 Abed Bwanikas, our parliament would be...
They're actually there. But you see, it is one thing to have a good contribution towards the discourse on the plenary. It's also another having the courage to come out.
Yeah.
You know, because not many people come out to have such discussions. But however, you will realize that the argument that the Honorable Abed Bwanika is fronting has been available on the corridors of public service or civil service for that matter. But nevertheless, also for the wider appreciation of other employers and for the same matter, other employees. The discussion about a fair approach to salary enhancement has been around, and it is well defendable or well backed up. How? For example, when you talk about enhancing salaries on a fair scale, having given a platform for such a discussion does cause desolate for other approaches which are abused. And let me start by giving you some of the examples. In this country, someone will study for all these years, 7 years plus the 6 years, and probably university for whichever years. And all that time, they will not get a job because of what? Someone told them you don't have experience. Now, it means that there must be room, and by the way, even this is for government institutions.
Yes.
Some of the work they do, I've rarely seen train or graduate programs that government advertises. Also, the jobs they want to give are tailored to experience. Now, you find that a first-year graduate gets a job and they are probably paid, let's say, 5 million shillings because they are scientists. And an artist who has had experience of about 10 years doesn't even get half of that.
Probably walks home with about 1 point something. Yes.
You get the point? And that is all a creation of our administration. And this is what Abed is saying. And you know, the general fabric of appreciation for people for employment would be cast in these three things. One, the first thing you look at is direct relation to the need, which is anchored in study. Okay, you may not be able you cannot say you're going to get a lawyer to do a doctor's work. So it's anchored in the direction of need. We employ given the need as it creates itself or as it has been created all the space. One. Two, then we shall come to things like experience and exposure. But third also is the ability to retain this talent we have gotten. Yes. And this is exhibited in various ways. One, remuneration. Two, facilitation. Three, motivation. Now, having looked at all these three things, it will determine how and who is best for the job. What happens in Uganda? Because the HR has a couple of duties they have to do when it comes to one. HR has a duty to find need. For example, in an institution, they recognize that there is need.
Yes.
Okay.
There is a gap here. Exactly. There is a gap there.
Yeah, we could use the word gap. When you realize the gap, you take time to study the needs to cover the gap. Sometimes it's not enough just to say that, hey, we need this person. But you must realize that what do we do to cover this need? Now that will inform you the kind of person you will need. And after that, then you go out, probably you make an advert, whichever form you use, You go into the process of recruitment, selection, and then appointment. All these things, there must be some sort of research done at this point by government to give us the conclusive advice about what is needed, because coming to what is needed, the need that Uganda faces to appreciate its desired growth should inform the payment structure. It is not a blanket approach that scientists, arts, no. We must be answering to some need. What is the need that is stalling Ugandans from moving forward or to the middle income status, as they say? What is stalling? Now, it would mean that we are employment must be tailored towards need, not general. That's why we had a big argument. We're doing a course review for some university, and we had a big argument. And some of us were saying, you can't wake up in the 23rd century, and we are still promoting courses like secretarial. Those are not, in as much as they could still be there, but it cannot be.
It can't be among top priority right
we
now.
We should be discouraging and discarding that one.
Gradually.
Yes, we should be pulling it off. Why? Because IT has informed us that at the convenience of my office or wherever on a flight, I can handle my secretarial work here. You get the point?
Yes.
Now, we also have the same argument. Banks, is it still sustainable for us to teach, to chunk out a big number of graduates who have studied issues of banking? And because now banks are on the phones. You understand?
You go, you download the certain bank's app, and everything
banks are right
go.
here.
Yes.
You look for, now, this is what tailor makes education or answering the need. When it comes to government, what is the government projected plan towards national growth? That should inform what is important. Because when you focus on saying that for us scientists must be paid better,
yes,
are you meaning to say it is the gap needed? I don't know if is it the gap needed to answer the big question?
Yes.
There's a place for innovation, but there's a place also for managing the innovations. Does it take someone to be a scientist, for example, to drive a car that is made by Chira EV? What does it take? Someone. Okay, when these people do their work, who will do the accounting for them? They will need marketing.
Yes.
They will need accountants. They need salespeople. These are not scientists.
So whether we like it or
managers,
not,
by the way,
managers who are not scientists.
If you're keen to note, when you go to some of these government hospitals, the administrative officers are not scientists, because administration is not necessarily a need for someone to be a scientist.
Although somebody would argue that they need to have some knowledge about
which they
some
can
of the
get,
things. Yes.
which they can get through exposure. But managing a hospital, you don't have to be a scientist. So there's a need to strike a relevant balance that is directly answering the need, not to have it as a blanket approach that scientists are better than, because the argument then would be, you know, they're what you call circumstantial. There are things that are circumstantial to the well-being of scientists. When you go to Mulago has various departments, and we can pick on one. For example, you have a department that deals with salaries. Who will pay the doctors? You can imagine an accountant paying hefty amounts of money to the doctors, and for them, they're taking, yet probably they can prove that they have a lot of input. Look at procurement and disposal. The doctor will come to treat Philomena, but they won't know where the medicine has come from, who has followed up, who's doing all these things. I think, and I believe in my opinion, the creation of a gap between appreciation of study, whether scientific or artistry, is going to be catastrophic in its own way. Why? Because it does not appreciate people's relevancy, it appreciates people's differences.
When you talk about that, according to the circular standing instruction that was released by the Ministry of Public Service, and also showing the salary structure for financial year 2023, and they were talking again in line with a phased approach to the implementation of salary increments and arising due to COVID-19. They did list out categories of people who are going to have quite an increase in their salaries, if I should say. Number one, there was health professionals and health tutors, and looking at scientists in the mainstream public service, science teachers in post-primary schools, laboratory technicians and laboratory assistants in post-primary schools, and science lecturers, tutors, instructors in business, technical and vocational education training institutions, and legal professionals under the Directorate of Public Prosecution, that is the
legal profession.
Yes, under the DPP Council. So you may want to hold on to the excitement.
We can apply to go there.
Well,
been there before.
So as you can see, the list, we have very few what I would call artists in this scenario. Most of them are science teachers, but also Felix, when we're talking about how what you need to look at, the professionalism of a person, the experience and the academics of this person, because we're looking at academic skills of these people that should be joining public service or that should join public service. There is one challenge that I always find that will always sabotage, even if we know what is supposed to be happening. Look at the recruitment processes in all these public offices, Felix. The nepotism that is there, the tribalism, the, sectarianism that is there. Don't you think this is going to become a continuous problem? Even if we talk about whether we want artists or scientists, when we zero down to this recruitment processes, don't you think that is going to be one of the biggest challenges? I mean, I think it's one of the biggest challenges that we have in all these public institutions and public service. How do we work around that?
Work around nepotism?
It's not possible.
You can't work around
we always make a joke here how instead of in some institutions, as opposed to calling people for a meeting, you may as well just go to the family WhatsApp group and send your communication.
Get it done there.
Yes.
Philomena, it is evident of third world countries, and it is characteristic, not bipolic, that it is happening to Uganda. However, it is also in appreciation of the notorious approach and primitive approach to public service. Now, let me just tell you what public service is. Public service is embedded in its own name. That this is a conglomeration of workers that are supported by government institutions that are meant to serve the public in all its definite regard.
Yes. And
follow the given agenda by the leading government. You understand? The mandate of me sitting here, you sitting here, and any other person in this institution, UBC, at any level, managerial, technical, operation, is to serve the basic purpose and interest of government, later on, Uganda. Now, how it is executed is the next question. What informs public service and recruitment is the need to fulfill a given agenda. The Constitution gives us what we call national objectives. When a government comes in power, it also unleashes its manifesto and also its projected vision, which we should work towards. That's why you've seen most recent, some programs, you've seen the ministry, the Office of the Prime Minister has bought time to talk about this parish development model. Previously I've been talking about Emyoga, because they need to execute this as part of their objective plan. Now, recruitment in the same way must be guided by that. We don't recruit people because of our need, individual need, and that's where we normally have it twisted as a country. You don't answer your need, you answer an institutional need.
But we personalize the institution and needs,
and that's
and
where you have tendencies of what you're saying, family WhatsApps.
Or someone will tell you, my company, your company, this is a public, this is a government entity.
That's where we miss it. You find that someone, when they get into public office, they want to first answer their need, and that's how we got issues like the Mabati, the Karamoja issues. All of these people put their eyes off public service. They put their eyes off public service and their eyes went to personal service. You get the point? The aunties that were supposed to help Philomena, a poor job,
I decided to take them to my farm.
Now, because when we give these things to the Karamoja, that is public service. From government, by the way.
Yes.
It's inward, outward approach. Government, what can we take and give to the people? Now, because you're employing mediocre people, and that I put on record, mediocre, non-oriented, primitive people. Back to the thing you're saying, the nepotism. In public service, when you employ Philomena because she's an old colleague who went to school, you're leaving the public good. It is not a competence-based approach, but it is a cadre-based approach. So you will bring a village, someone who is a village friend, and they are struggling personally. Now that's what you saw. Someone takes handsheets to make a personal, is it a tent or a house? For his pigs and goats and chickens.
The sty or his farmhouse, yes.
The chinchilla rabbits. That's kind of a nakan. Then you find a minister. And it all comes back to work. Recruitment. And this is the questions you have been asking. Now, actually, we need to put on spot the parliamentary the committee that vets, the vetting committee that vets these people. Did you really do a good job?
The due diligence.
Did you do what you have to do in approving these, the Honorable Nandutus, the Kitutus, and their colleagues, whoever has been sanctioned by court? Did you do a good job? Because there's a reason why we are appreciating a tripartite approach to governance. We have an executive, judiciary, and the parliament, where they have to sort of like in the appreciation of scholars like Thomas Aquinas, who say that these institutions must execute an oblivion of an entity called checks and balances. Is it something we see? How did these now accused people pass the sieve? Same thing with public service. You saw an institution, a government, public institution like NSSF. Do they have a nature department? This is what Abed is saying. Stop focusing on this whole issue of scientists are better and what. You're going to demotivate people in every discipline.
Because he actually said that there is demoralization already in all these public institutions, you know, where we have decided to focus on one category of public servants and we're leaving out the others. And even when you look at the earlier stages, we are focusing more on the science, science side of the coin.
There was a queer scenario at the inception of this whole argument in schools. You can imagine a deputy head teacher who is an artist and pays a salary to a teacher, or probably a very junior teacher, thrice his salary. Now, why are we going to deal with the issues of respect? Because this all works together towards the same.
I'm going to just hold you right there for a minute. There is somebody who is talking about something close to that here. And he says, I'm a civil servant and a teacher by profession as well. But the situation is really bad. I will tell you, for example, in the school where I teach, there is a club that they call, the scientists have what they call a billionaires club. There is already isolation that you can see amongst staff members, and it doesn't sit well with the art teachers. Isolated education, it can never be effective. and this is going to be one of the biggest challenges. So we are already seeing this right from the early stages in the schools. Now what happens eventually when we get to these other stages?
You see, many Ugandans, and I want to say this without fear of contradiction, nevertheless I'll say it, many Ugandans have a high note of excitement. It is just not yet triggered. In Uganda we call it kuchamuka, baina akachamuka. Now you're looking at such kind of people. With a very small power they have been given, like a small portion of a shilling or an addition of a zero to them, you can imagine they have billionaires. Now, how does that consolidate the reasoning for us to have a balanced education system? And let me tell you something, by the way. For some of us who studied in some of the schools here that had brilliant teachers, you would notice that some things may be inborn. Scientists are not made. Scientists are not made. Honestly, believe it or not, you don't make a scientist. You do, because of sleepless nights, you don't become a good mathematician or physician or chemist. You please don't sleep. Get sleep. This thing you're going to do winter, put your legs in. Scientists are born. And the irony of us thinking we can make scientists is the mistake we make to kill people in hospitals. This discrepancy we are putting in place is going to push people who have no idea about sciences, people who have no idea about any of these science. They are going to force themselves to penetrate at any cost. They are going to bribe people. You know what? Degrees now are sold. You'll have fake doctors because for them they are chasing this amount of payment. You're going to have fake teachers.
They'll do what it takes for them to
I'm telling you, I've ever seen a teacher
that money
who could not solve a physics, a math problem. And all the students were, I don't know where this man came from. It was a government school. The man would not solve a math problem. But he was a math teacher. And you have been all. At one point we had a big argument with some chemistry teacher. The man would equation refused. The equation refused to balance. That was a very simple thing. How do these things come up? You've heard of doctors who are negligent at work. Nurses, midwives, very rude. I have had midwives slap women in maternity when they are giving all these things, labor wards. These are some of the causes. When you force people to go through a hole they don't fit in, they will go through, but they will come out with bruises. And who is to face the wrath of the bruises? Is the recipients of the service. I think we should, at this point, encourage a balanced approach to growth. If someone can be a good chef, why don't we support the chefs?
Yes.
Because that is a full industry, and that we need in terms of tourism. You know, if someone can be a good historian, we have a lot of, how about we let them appreciate how do we customize their skills towards building the nation.
Yes.
We're talking about growth of tourism. Okay, are you going to bring doctors to cook, to cut onions in hotels? Because you're talking about scientists. Are we going to bring engineers? We need to balance society. And
there has to be coexistence of both.
Must, and that's something we must create. Whether painfully or happily, we must create that society. One thing I have learned from the Western world, for the few times I've had an opportunity to interact with it, these guys have accepted that every human activity, every human contributing activity counts. Now, everything in the Western world is professional. It is not wrong to find a Briton cleaning. And they do it. You find a family lives on a father who is a cleaner. And is a professional cleaner. Probably he subscribes to a company, he has his books of record, he pays taxes. And the family survives on that. You go to a shop where a professional cobbler. And that's what they have lived on as a family. It
Yes.
is known because they are professionalized every aspect.
But do we, and I mean that brings, do we appreciate professionalism here in Uganda?
How can you
do we do that? Do we understand what it means that if this, say for example, this is a professional cobbler, nobody else should be doing this kind of job unless they are
Outside the
also,
scope of being
yes,
professional.
yes.
Now,
do we understand
that should
how
be our
relevant that is?
argument. That should be our argument, that let us standardize work. You get the point. If someone is doing metal craft, let us standardize it and make it professional.
Just like how we have specialists here in Uganda.
Simple,
got,
yes.
yes.
But we only have professionalism at the level of education. In fact, when you go to do work abroad, like you've done, people do a lot of home care work in abroad. What people here talk about taking care of the elderly, the handicapped, the disabled. That is professional work out there. That's why you and your relatives are able to do that work when they go abroad. And they earn heftily. You get them. But for us here, we want to do things casually, yet we want to earn out of them. Let us build processes. In as much as, by the way, you may talk about this whole thing of enhancing sciences. If you don't deal with the broken debris we carry as in civil service and public service, debris of which kind of debris that falls every day? One, what you talked about, nepotism, sectarism, favoritism, tribalism, all. There's a lot of zim.
Too much. That is really limiting.
Yes. We are losing the most competent people to change this country. The rightful doctors in hospitals of government are not there. You're having mediocre people doing government work. And worldwide, government has the best employees. Because government has the best opportunities. It means that it can recruit the best cream de la cream. Every year, honestly, and I want to question you members of, can talk about parliament or cabinet, or whoever is interested. What is our recruitment score on a scorecard? How many people do you recruit from Makerere every year? Are we the ones who are fishing these best guys? Every year Makerere comes out with the best student. Who is taking these best students in terms of medicine, engineering? We are struggling with potholes, left, right, center. We have economists, we have statisticians. Okay, people who are studying economic strategy, budgeting, specialists in Makerere, Mukono, Nkumba, other universities, KIU. Where are they going? Where is government not taking this? But government is.
I keep thinking, so what happens if those that can't be scientists, what's going to happen to that? And between me and you, that is the largest population.
Definitely.
It's the largest population. What happens if you really are not a scientist? And we've ruled out the scientists are not what? They're not made. They are born.
No.
Yes.
Anyway.
That is what you believe. Yeah, it can be challenged.
I have seen it.
Yes.
I have seen it, I know.
Okay, now what about what happens to that fraction? What happens to the fraction that cannot be a born scientist or a made scientist? Because even those are there, and I want to guarantee that is the largest.
Singing clothes, you know.
But really? Now we're going to look at more unemployment levels. We are already fighting unemployment
Philomena,
here.
Today, on a scale of 10 border riders, and nothing wrong with riding a border. 3 of them are degree holders.
True.
Or even S6, up to S6. 3. Now, when you add S6, about 5. You go to Parkyard, go to the buildings down, Ham, whatever. Who are there? These are degree holders. But then, we are defeating the purpose of education. In a very short time from now, education will be useless. Kumanga, if people go to school, and they don't practice what they have studied, it is useless. I didn't ever know in the world by the way that a doctor can be unemployed. Me, I didn't know.
Neither did I.
That a pilot is unemployed.
Wow,
but you have unemployed pilots. Lawyers, it's okay. You're all over. You're like dust. You're all over. But the professions that we are holding, because you see, service-based professions can never lack work. An engineer These are service-based professions. A doctor, an engineer, a nurse, a midwife, sitting at home looking for a job when government, government has how many hospitals? But today they are jobless. Now you're telling us to appreciate. Finally, from me, Philomena, we need to get back to the drawing board, and this is for us. When I say us, is government. Let's go back to the drawing board. Let's understand that coexistence is a best way of survival. Okay? When the elephant, let me tell you a small story. The elephant and the cat went one time on a voyage, competing to see who is the best, who would be the king of the jungle. Long story short, the elephant couldn't survive in the wilderness without assistance of this cat. There was a point where one needed to use the other and the other needed to use the other. In fact, when they all came back, they said that there is no need for us to say this one is better, but there is need for us to understand that we can't live without the other. And that's the tale of life.
There is someone here saying this mindset of salaries needs to get out of our heads. We need to pay for measurables, use the scorecard.
And performance.
Yeah, it shouldn't be something that we have to think about and stress us. There's Andrew in Toro here who says, before we go far, who is a scientist? And do people who teach biology qualify to be scientists?
They're teaching science.
Well, because I mean, there are different categories. I guess there are people who do practical. I don't even know how to categorize it, but ideally, I would think that is a scientist in one way or another.
Doing something related to science.
Because because
biology teacher,
an artist can't go and teach biology. From how does that even happen? So it definitely has to be a biologist teaching a fellow biologist, or a scientist teaching a fellow scientist. Now there is Kabengo Wilson saying that that was a very good and bad move at the same time. In as much as they wanted to pay attention to the scientists, they've completely ignored the artist. There is need to strike a balance because both of them have relevance. And I think them referring to artists and scientists, they have relevance to the economy of the country. There is Angel here saying, even our scientists definitely are a little bit sketchy here in Uganda. We may not in as much as trust
I love our choice of words.
They are sketchy. We may not trust them. You know,
you wait for a doctor for 6 hours? Dude, someone is going to die. And where is the doctor?
I have Goreti here from Chisasi, and she's talking about there is need to provide employment platforms for both scientists and teachers. We already have scientists on the streets. This is what we're talking about. Even if we are advocating for scientists to have more scientists in the country, but I mean, where are they? We are seeing a few or a small percentage of these scientists being used, but where are the rest going?
No, but also, Philomena, unfortunately our time, but also as we talk about this topic, Philomena, we must keep in mind one thing. You see, it's not fair for us to focus our eyes on scientists and yet we are not contributing to their being also. When you talk about the need to answer to science, innovation and what, I have to ask again, how many engineers, what scheme does government have, or what partnerships do the government has to produce as many engineers as they can? Let's say in the government's budget scheme this year, 2023, 2024, excuse me, how much money have we put aside to see these people go through school? Or we are just talking about scientists who poor parents in villages are struggling with to put through school. Because do you know how many scientists will never see the beauty of university because of finances? So it's not enough for us to talk about sciences, but actually we need to appreciate education on a general spectrum. The country has need for both people.
Yes.
Scientists and people who are artists, for that matter. Everyone is good in their own place. We're not going to be in hospitals the whole time or being engineers. There's also leisure. Uganda is earning how much from tourism today? Lots and lots of money. In fact, well, there's someone who made a joke a couple of days ago that I think we should start with the cabinet and parliament. Let us also get a vote and say that for cabinet should be having a composure of at least 80% scientists. And also parliament should have a composure of about 50%. Yeah, for them, you put them at 50. The thing would be empty.
Why do we have to put them at 50? We should just say 60 or 70%.
Then you won't have members. Then you won't have
we'll have
members.
an empty August house.
You won't. Because if there you have abused now, then you shall have court cases about discrimination and all this. In fact, there's a case already in relation to that. There's a case about discrimination. Because what is the yardstick? You said this one is more than this one. Basing on what? We can prove the reverse. We can prove the reverse.
Yeah, you know what? I am really buying into the idea of starting from parliament and cabinet.
No, it's cabinet.
I think it's something we need to.
You will end up kicking out the. You imagine if we attach that to the top offices of the country, we won't have a chief justice. Because it doesn't need you to be a scientist to be a chief justice.
Yes.
Even a president. It's not a requirement. Look at the good guidance the Excellency has given. Did he have to be a doctor or an engineer? I can tell you how many engineers have messed up institutions and doctors. We have so many. So we can't, I think trust is not built on whether scientists, or trust is built on how able people have proved themselves to change this country. And we should stay focused on that. But by and large, we should also agree that we need to have a discussion about this thing they call minimum wage. It works directly with this discussion of the discrepancies. The minimum wage is key, and that's what is affecting the academic institution. You're having a bust out. Scientists are here, but we should put a cap. I think we should rejuvenate this discussion, in my opinion.
Indeed. Well, our poll is still out there, sharing your thoughts on how public service appreciates professionals. Continue letting us know. But for now, we're looking into the papers, the big stories, starting off with The Citizen. Moody's gives Tanzania favorable credit training. Nimrod Mukono's legacy as seen by Zito Kabwe. And Minister allays fears over safety of Tanzanians in conflict-hit Sudan. And government mulls fund to ease state entities' capital woes. And looking at aviation, TCL Kenya Airways consider cargo tie-up. Crossing over to the Daily Nation, chip unga puzzle. Now, many retailers are still stuck with expensive stocks and are reluctant to cut prices. All drivers are set for refresher tests. Well, good for them. Looking at the road carnage and how the Transport Cabinet Secretary came out and announced these new measures to curb road crashes. Ruto Raila teams lay the groundwork for bipartisan talks and tough new rules to boost safety in schools. And the Kenya Revenue Authority to operate 24-hour shifts at port to end cargo clearance delays. And finally, Uhuru man was paid 415 million Kenyan shillings for advice in 6 billion telecom sec. Well, get yourself the Daily Nation, the Citizen, Daily Monitor, and the New Vision to catch up on all these stories and much, much more. It's Good Morning Uganda. We will go for a break right now. When we get back, I'll be giving you some of the traffic insights, what's happening on the roads, which roads are user-friendly as we speak for now, and those that you should probably avoid for a minute or two. Good morning.
is Good Morning Uganda.
Glow as you are with the new Spark 10 series smartphone from Airtel in partnership with Tecno. Own the timelines with picture-perfect selfies using the 32-megapixel selfie camera, 256 GB storage, G88 gaming processor, and a strong battery to last the whole day. Tawakana.
The Spark 10 smartphone comes with free 3 GB from Airtel and 100% bonus on weekly and monthly bundles every month for 3 months. So you can stay connected to a world of possibilities. Dial *100*5# to enjoy free data. The new Spark 10 is available in all selected Tecno shops countrywide. Airtel, the smartphone network in partnership with Tecno. Stop at nothing.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
This is a quick call. I'm almost out of minutes. Now, the center.
Why rush through such important conversations? Airtel Uganda has made it possible for you to call across all networks in Uganda at the best rates with the new Bona voice bundles. Stay connected anytime, anywhere, with minutes valid for calls on all networks. Dial *100*1#. Select voice bundles and select Bona voice bundles today. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning, Uganda. Welcome to the traffic updates this morning. What's happening on our roads? That's the situation like looking at several areas around Nakulabi, Bukesa, Kagugube, and Kisenyi, Namirembe. Very, very busy area this morning, I must say. Clearly very dominated in red. Looking at areas around Bukesa here, there is already a traffic, very heavy traffic. Looking at it transitioning from red to maroon, showing you that it's heavier or getting heavier by the minute. And as you're getting closer, of course, this is off Hoima Road. Looking at Chadondo Road, we already have traffic building up over there. Now, as you proceed to Makerere Hill Road, you will be expecting to come face to face with, again, traffic that is taking in all the way from this stretch up to this part of Nakasero. Looking at Gaddafi Road, it's not any different as well. We have cars flowing in all the way from Namirembe headed towards this direction, and no wonder you are seeing all the traffic building in and out. Now, as you continue around Makerere, well, the traffic is expected, and in fact it is really dominating the biggest part or biggest stretches of this road. Benaisa Road, very, very, very bad traffic over there, so you may want to avoid that area. If you have an alternative route, this could have been could be the time for you to look into using it. Looking at Mulago also has traffic already building up. The spotted sections of the road showing you that it is already starting to build. We have cars, cyclists, and any other road user that is really getting into it. Mawanda Road, the traffic already built crossing through Kisingiri Street. Over here, as you're headed towards Chira Road, you'll be expecting quite some heavy traffic and slow move of cars. Chira Road, on the other hand, we're already registering again traffic building on some of these spots where you do see the orange areas here shows the traffic is building up. For the most part of it, for now, it's a little bit free. Now, you could cross through this and use the John Babiha Road and trying to connect to Yusuf Lule Road. Well, John Babiha Road traffic already registered here and there, so you may want to really be very careful, or at least start thinking ahead for an alternative route. Now, via that, as you're crossing to join Yusuf Lule Road and sloping down to Kampala Jinja Road, which over here shows that the traffic is intense in this very area. And now we do have cars coming in, of course, from several parts of the city. We have cars that are joining in from Nakawa. We have cars that are joining in from Old Port Bay Road, which is over this route. We have cars coming in from Wampel Avenue again here. Now, this definitely would be resulting into a chaotic traffic situation here. Also, cars coming in from Access Road, this part of Makindye Division will be joining into that traffic. So you may as well want to, start thinking ahead if you haven't set off from home to get alternative routes. Well, for the most part of it, I could say that the roads are quite busy this morning. But yes, like always, I encourage you to be very patient while at it, or be very careful and cautious because we are trying to avoid all these road accidents and all these chaotic situations that may even prolong the traffic than usual. I will leave it at that. I am Philomena Mastiko. Good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
Get away with MTN Momo Advance. Momo Advance tops up your Momo to complete your transactions. Dial star 165 star 5 star 3 hash to apply. MTN Momo Advance is always available when you need it.
It's the encounters with our majestic gorillas. The thrill of taking on the falls of the Nile River. The joy of discovering new traditions and a lot more. Join us at the 2023 Pearl of Africa Tourism Expo from the 26th to the 29th of April at the Commonwealth Resort, Munyonyo. Rediscover our country's uniqueness and see what the tourism sector has in store for you. Visit www.poate.co.ug to secure your spot and get set to learn, network and explore. The Pearl of Africa Tourism Expo is brought to you by the Uganda Tourism Board in partnership with Competitiveness and Enterprise Development Projects. Explore Uganda, the Pearl of Africa.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
The Tales of Kasozi, brought to you by Uganda Communications Commission.
Hello? This is Kasozi. How can I help you?
Hey, Kasozi, my brother. Long time. We last met when we were at campus. It's been a while, but you are the person I'm looking for.
Campus? Really?
Hey, you don't remember me?
Okay, so how can I help you?
I'm stuck in Gulu making millions and I need to urgently send money to my sick mother. But I can't find any mobile money agent near me. I've sent the money to your phone as you can see the message. It might take a few minutes to come through, but I urgently need you to send the money to my mother. Let me send you her number and you send it to her chap.
My friend,
I'm afraid your mom is going to die.
What?
Because I don't know you, I never went to campus, and I'm also in Gulu. So can we meet at CPS, we talk about it?
Stay tuned for what Kasozi does next.
Tofera, refrain from unnecessary engagements with strangers over the phone. This message is powered by the Uganda Communications Commission.
Alpha without Omega. I am Africa.
Hail to Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, a land with the world's most beautiful, captivating features. Hills,